Hello and welcome to the New Space Vision podcast sponsored by LiveView, where we discuss new space technology, finance and innovation with executives, founders and more exciting people from the startup and new space ecosystem. I'm Daniel Seidel.
And I'm Sven Shivara, and together we are the founders of the Earth observation company LiveView and of New Space Vision. Today's guest is Damien Garot, founder and CEO of the Internet and Connectivity on-the-go company Stellar, which raised nearly 10 million euros last year to leverage satellite, Wi-Fi and cellular networks for all vehicles. Welcome to the show, Damien.
Oh, nice. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. This podcast is a long time in the making, I would say, because our relationship goes way back. I think back then LiveView just had started, but Stellar wasn't there yet. So that was 6 years ago. It was a summer day or something like that. I was pretty sick, but Daniel and I organized the conference, and we were very happy there's such a great speaker like yourself presenting at that small conference. So maybe you tell us a little bit about how you got into the space sector and what you did before starting Stellar.
All right. So starting super simple, and it might sound like a cliche, but being born and raised in the countryside, I have a lot of time to watch the stars. And so when I was 14, I guess I bought a telescope, and I was really onto the space themes all the time. And so what happened is that I've been lucky enough to get accepted to the engineering school in France, where you can learn how to build rockets, transmit information through satellites, make satellite observation. Basically the dream coming true for me. Yeah. So I became a space engineer, but funny enough, I never did any tech, because I quickly realized that some of my friends there were much more gifted than I was. And
that's something which we both have in common. I also studied engineering and realized, well, maybe some others should do the calculation, I do the talking.
And it's more the talking. For me, I quickly realized that there are great innovation, great ideas, great things we can do with space for the benefit of Earth. But there is also the way to present them, communicate, and eventually to find people that will be using it. So that's basically what I've been doing. While I still have a foot on the tech side, clearly I'm more into making sure that actually the space sector can be sustainable and grow. So I've been working on 2 satellite broadband constellations, Skybridge back in the days, and then more recently OneWeb. I also sold satellite in the Middle East for Thales Alenia Space. And then for 11 years, I was in charge of the growth of the Eutelsat group, which is one of the satellite telecommunication operator based in Europe. And there I presented to the board new satellite investments, buying new satellites to grow the fleet. I did some merger and acquisitions, buying satellites from General Electric. They were already in orbit, funny enough. And something that I presented the first time we met, Sven, is deal with Facebook that we made at Eutelsat to bring broadband internet via satellite in Africa. So that was really a aha moment, because this is a moment I realized that the space sector, especially for the telecom sector, while being disrupted by Netflix and the usage of smartphone to enjoy TV, could rejuvenate, could do something differently with new ecosystems, new geography, new applications. And that it was not a technology of the past, it could be really applications of the future. And so I decided to actually start working for startups, making sure that they could actually have a fruitful relationship with larger group like, Thales Alenia Space, Eutelsat, or even Facebook.
And maybe just to chime in there, I think still remembering from your presentation during the conference, you've mentioned that what surprised you was the speed in which Facebook was moving and the speed the old space company you were working with, Eutelsat, with all its obviously technological capabilities was moving at. Was this kind of like the reason which you said, hey, I want to go on a speedboat rather than a big tanker?
What's fascinating is that Facebook at that time was not a startup anymore.
Yeah.
What was really the bulk of the work, it took us 9 months to make the deal. But it was only 15 days for the tech. And the rest of it was to negotiate the contract. So the perceptions of the risk on each side, making sure that we had a common ground for being partners. All was related to the cultural gap between, a company from the West Coast and a European player. And we've been lucky enough at Eutelsat to have like a commando of, 4 people basically with direct link to top management so that we could move swiftly, so that we could make decision on the spot and adapt to what was, this crazy shuttle and making sure that we would deliver this deal on time.
Nice. Yeah. And what is interesting when we look at the timelines, right? You graduated as a space engineer, then Skybridge came. And then what is also fascinating, Sven and me, is when you bring these space technologies into commercial markets, right? And there were nearly 4 years at Alcatel, right? Now like a Nokia-owned brand, and there was Alcatel Space back then, right? So
yes. And Alcatel Space has been bought by Thales. So you have 2 satellite manufacturers. I mean, incumbent ones in Europe right now. You have Alcatel and Thales in France. You also have OHB in Germany. But yes, so I was part of the Thales ecosystem, I'd say.
So what you say back then, 20 years, also fascinating for you. There was already this commercial market. It was commercial demand mainly, or was it very governmental?
So just like today, yesterday, I've been at a conference from the space economist Pierre Lyonnais, working for Eurospace that, I encourage you actually to invite, because the guy has been actually doing one thing and one thing only, trying to understand this trillion space economy concept.
Yeah.
And he's been working on all the numbers behind this study that is coming from a 2017 study from Morgan Stanley, from actually a banker that used to put Tesla stock onto private customers. And he basically did the same for SpaceX. And so that's really the genesis of all this. And basically, if you look at the impact on the public sector onto space 20 years ago and now, it's pretty stable. And while obviously we see now, a cadence of launches, which is uncomparable to what happened 20 years ago in terms of volume, because the 20 years ago, it was the satellite TV that was really the workhorse of the commercial sector, is not anymore. It's really because everybody is using its or her phones to watch TV. Now, the workhorse of the growth of the commercial sector is, space observation, and you've much more well played than me to talk about it, but as well as broadband access, Starlink, OneWeb, certain Lightspeed and others. So that's really where we see the growth for the space sector on the commercial side for telecoms.
And this is also something we're going to dive deeper later in the podcast when we talk more about the ecosystem. So going back to your personal story, right? So 11 years at Eutelsat, roughly. There was a quick time as a visiting professor.
When you leave the salaryman suit, you have more time. And to me, I wanted to give back, to basically find my younger self still at school and being able to share what I learned from all these years working at Alcatel, working at Eutelsat. And that's why I decided to be a visiting and to basically share what I learned by doing this deal with Facebook or this deal with General Electric, buying satellites in orbits. Quite interesting, actually, as a theme, because there are a lot of entangled topics. It's not only about money, it's also about tech, but also about legal, regulatory, all these kind of things is making it a multi-layered chess game. And that's really the fun part.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can imagine it's also, as you said, right, great case studies with a lot of extra difficulties and extra excitement. But okay, so now you're the founder of Stellar. Tell us a little bit, like, what brought you to that? Like, what was the defining moment where you said, hey, I want to start something, and I want to start something in the connectivity space in the automotive sector?
I didn't want to do anything. But what happened is that I got a call from Germany.
Yeah.
I got a call from a car manufacturer there, and they were looking for experts from the broadband constellations. So they got in contact with me. And so they were telling something super simple. Elon is coming back. Not with electric cars that now we've been able to catch up, but with connected cars, because we have Tesla brands and we have Starlink, and at some point they will converge. Teslas will be connected by Starlinks. Okay. Yeah. Which is, by the way, also something that happens in China. Geely, the car manufacturer, is launching its own satellite constellation, G-Space. Same logic, bringing a competitive advantage to the group by having its own means of connectivity to make the experience on board for the passengers so differentiated, but also for supporting this shift into the automotive sector.
Yeah.
Cars are becoming centric around software centric, which basically means that to make it simple, there's a smartphone on wheels. Yeah. And just like smartphone, they need to be connected, they need to be upgraded. Then connectivity is a must-have for these cars to be efficient, safe, and secure. Yeah. So this is where we started to have a conversation on what we could do together. So I explained to them the whole lanyards of the complexity of a satellite constellation. And quickly, everybody realized that the best way to serve the needs of the automotive sector was not one technology, but the mix of all this technology and a clever mix of this technology. And so that's the genesis of Stellar, making sure that actually the space sector will be one of the key ways to connect the vehicles, because these vehicles are now in absolutely need of reliable connectivity so that they can be autonomous, teleoperated. You can feel finally useful when going from point A to point B while being connected. So that's the genesis of Stellar. And from the get-go, what was fantastic is that we had the clear needs and expression of the constraints of the car industry when shaping up Stellar, when shaping up our solutions. So we knew the problems we had to solve. And that was in 2021.
And then when you observe the problem or an opportunity, it's still a way to go to say, okay, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna take the risk and start a company, right? So, and we also could see that you have a co-founder, right? So how did that happen? I have an assumption, right? There was one brand in both of your LinkedIn profiles, which was at the same time. But maybe you tell us your story.
So first of all, the decision is so impactful to my life and hence of my loved ones. We had a family council, as we call it, where the kids and my wife, we sat at the table, very serious, and I explained everything. I explained the opportunity. I explained the excitement.
With a little pitch deck as well. Did you have a pitch deck?
Yeah. I used my eyes and they were probably seeing something sparkling inside because they said, go for it. We know it's going to be a very different life. We know we won't see you that much, but we will see you also, in a very thrilling experience. So that was the first step. The second step was indeed to create this company together with co-founders. And I have two co-founders. I'm really lucky for that. The first one is Anela. Anela is the former director of connected car at Porsche. So Anela is bringing with her all the understanding of 20 years in the automotive industry when it comes to connected cars. What is that we should do and not do? The networks, the technology that been there, the failures, but also the successes in the car industry. And so that has been tremendous since the beginning. And funny enough, I'm always telling her that she's the most French German person I ever met. So the fit was really fun. I was learning German. She was learning French. So that was fun. Our third co-founder is Hassan. Hassan, we know each other since Skybridge. So since, the previous century. And so Hassan is our genius. He is the one who created that software, which is able to seamlessly switch between cellular networks, Wi-Fi networks, and Starlink networks. Thanks to what he created, we are enabling the space sector to embed itself into the terrestrial economy, into the terrestrial ecosystems. And this is so important because it's not one solution as great as satellite that can fix the problems of the car manufacturers. It's a mix of them.
And I think that's true for all downstream applications. So for the listeners, right, everything you do is on Earth with data from space. It's never the answer, right? Satellite data, Earth observation data in the case of LiveView, or communication data from space is always, I should say, is rarely the answer to the question. It's hopefully a big piece of the answer, but it always needs to have some additional pieces.
It's an ingredient, like it's the egg and the cake. It's not the cake.
Exactly.
The piece part that even if it's small for the mobility and automotive sector, because there are 80 million additional new vehicles being built each year.
Mm.
So there are 1.4 billion vehicles on the planet today. It's a massive opportunity. Even if you have 1% of it, it's an absolutely massive opportunity for the space sector.
Yeah.
And that's really what we need to make sure it happens.
Yeah.
Also,
So then-
I wanted to mention, sorry, then go for it. All right. Something that was also one of the reasons I decided to be one of the founders of Stellar is that I went through 2 satellite broadband constellations. And I've quickly seen each time that we were making the same mistakes, starting with the birds, the beautiful ballet of satellites in the orbit, then wondering what kind of terminals we could have that could work with these satellites, and then ending up looking around for use cases. While here, thanks to the fact that we had a car manufacturer that was happy enough to tell us more about their problems, we would start from the use cases and then understand what kind of antennas could fit on the roof of the cars, the next generation of them. And then imagine what kind of birds we could have. So flipping the pyramid and starting from the use case for me was also something that I learned the hard way in my career, and that I was happy to flip in the right order with Stellar.
I think we can identify ourselves with that approach, thinking about the problems first, creating demand first, and then optimizing the supply. Later, I definitely want to ask you a few questions about your opinion on Iris Squared, but we're going to park it for now because you said, okay, then you had 2 co-founders with a lot of expertise, right? And then you made the decision to start Stellar. Did you have external funding from the get-go and could hire people, or how did you start?
We bootstrapped the thing, and then we had a pre-seed round that occurred like 6 months later, and then and 2021, and then we did our seed in the one that we announced on the press release that was done last year. So that's really the way we finance it. We've been also lucky enough to have the support of some regional institutions as well at the European level. So regional institutions, because the company is based in Bordeaux, southwest of France. You should come around. We don't have a studio that is as fancy as yours, but you should like it there. We rented a house there. It's called Maison Stellar. So
nice.
And we have a pool. We have a garden.
Wow. Well, that's something we don't have here.
And we have nice surf beaches that are like an hour away. So come on.
But this sounds amazing. We should definitely follow up on that. Maybe we come by. But I think after talking so much about Stellar, maybe you could quickly tell us what is your product right now, or what are your products, I should say, right now.
Yeah, it's the right way to position it. And the promise we have is quite simple. We bring a perfect internet on the move. And to do that, we created this technological brick, which is the software that is able to switch seamlessly between these with any kind of networks. So satellite, terrestrial, Wi-Fi, you name it. We are making sure that there are no drops of packets when we go from one technology to another, and that we are able to align stuff as complex as latency or jitter, while they're very different from, say, satellite to cellular or Wi-Fi. So that's the first element. The software has a second superpower, is that it could aggregate these networks together. So it's not, say, Deutsche Telekom or Vodafone. It's Deutsche Telekom and Vodafone, and hopefully one day Iris Square. So we are able, even in the countryside, to actually provide the right throughput for any type of applications, like for tractors on the fields. And then the third superpower that we are currently developing, which is something for which I'm super excited, is our predictivity feature. So the way Waze works. Yeah. There is a car ahead of you, 3 kilometers ahead, and the car is entering into a traffic jam. So you get automatically informed through the app that 3 kilometers down the road, there will be a traffic jam, right? We are doing the same because we are now operating 18 countries. We are accumulating a lot of data real time about the quality of the networks on the road, so that we are able to build algorithm to already anticipate, predict what will be the next potential issue for connectivity. So we can switch to the right network even before any problems occurs. And that's really something that is really important, because that's also something that is super important for car manufacturers.
How that sounds to me is a lot of software, right? AI within that. But do you also build the hardware which connects to the different connectivity solution?
And so this will link to the previous questions you had with regard to products. So the first product that we have is Steer, this software that I just told you about, which is ready for the car manufacturers. And we know that, and funny enough, to develop a car, it takes as much time as to develop new satellite constellations or new geostationary satellite. 3 years, 4 years, you name it. So it will take time for our software to be inside that next generation of vehicles. We already know it. But regardless, we decided to put our software into existing internet routers like this one.
Oh, nice. So Damien is just now showing us one of the example routers, a small box in his hands.
Exactly. So this box plugs into the USB port of any vehicle. You have 2 cellular modems, and you can plug any satellite antenna you want, any satellite antenna. We designed the software Steer so that it's natively compatible with any satellite system. To be clear, our boxes right now, they are tested by satellite operator with their GEO constellations, with their LEO constellations, with their MEO constellations, to see what can they bring with this unified solution that is bringing terrestrial and satellite together as one solution for the end users. So that's the second, really our second line of product, global, we call them, these internet routers. We have actually different models. We have another one like this, which is in polymer as well. We generated even a third one, which is a similar box to that, but on which you can plug actually 4 satellite antennas rather than 1. So you can multiply by 4 any satellite throughput. So you can really create a huge hub in terms of connectivity and actually perform some diversity of solutions. So you always have a backup on a different system. Would there be any problem arising on one of these networks?
Cool, super cool, the resilience.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine this in a static scenario, right? That you have antennas, right? I mean, we also have Starlink here in the office. But like putting it into a car is a big challenge, right? Just from the size, etc., and the design process. So, what is your perspective? Like, how do you want to get this into cars, or is it actually cars, or is it more trucks?
It's precisely this. Cars will. I mean, the bulk will happen through the line fit of our software into the next generation of vehicles. To be clear, what you see in these phones since the iPhone 14, a direct link to satellite constellations is something that will happen at least to some of the premium brands for their new vehicles. So you will have a satellite connectivity. Actually, it's already the case in China. The Zeekr FR1, you can already have some cell phone calls through, actually not satellite. So it's something that will happen for cars. But again, in midterm, today, these boxes, as you said, Daniel, they are in trucks, buses, trams, trains, you name it. It could be light commercial vehicles. And for these, we have the options for them either to use only terrestrial solutions, which sometimes is the case, but for some specific use cases, satellite is mandatory so that we have a connectivity which is close to the 100% that they expect in terms of quality of service. In that case, it's important to adjust the antenna to the use case. And this is where actually our satellite background is useful to support our fleet operators customers. Because depending on the application, it could be anything from, IoT type of solutions to low data rate. But clearly, we created Steer so to support this broadband anywhere on the road. So in that case, what is the power consumptions of the antenna that the vehicle can withstand, which is not a problem if you have an internal combustion engine, but completely different if you have an electric vehicle. So we're helping them to make the right trade-offs. But it's good because we can clearly see now that the space technology is improving enough so that the power consumption of these antennas is being reduced, the form factor as well, while the throughput is already good enough for most of the use case we've been facing so far.
It's super cool. So maybe to summarize, or maybe to follow up on that, the ultimate goal is to become an OEM and to build software which is being used by the car manufacturers, right? But that takes a lot of time. So right now, are you selling to individuals which have a truck and or maybe want to go on an off-road trip from Europe, Central Europe to, I don't know, east, and they would need something like that? Or are you selling to fleet owners right now?
To be clear, it's really for it's only B2B. First of all, because our DNA is B2B. Yeah. Anila, Hassan, and myself, we B2B people. So we created Stellar to meet the B2B needs. B2B is B2C is a different game in itself. We are discussing with partners that are excellent in this, and we'll license the technology. They will become a reseller, but we won't do that ourselves. What we see is that for us, this solution that we bring are especially useful for Europe. You mentioned Aerospace, so I think it's time that we also mention this. Is that for it, there are really three elements that we bring to Europe with these solutions. First of all, it's competitiveness. McKinsey is telling us that 54% of the car owners in China are ready to switch brands if they get a better connected car. So when we hear right now our European group facing harsh competition on international markets, well, it's a way to gain market shares. That's number one. Number two is really, I would say, the technological sovereignty. What we see right now is that because the car are being software centric, becoming more and more, who is winning? Well, it's what the European Commission is calling the gatekeepers, the Apple, Google, Amazon of the world. These companies that have been building empires around software, while obviously our industrial champions in Europe do not have the same culture. And they are thinking hardware first rather than software first. And bringing to them this technological brick, which is software that fits into their software stack, and that is giving them the keys of the connectivity for the vehicle so that the application that they bring on the vehicles are much better because they're always connected. It's always broadband compared to what you have on this phone, which would work only for, say, 60% of the roads in Europe, same in the US. And usually the average broadband session on the phone on the move is 3 minutes. With our software, it's continuous. So it's really a game changer for them in this battle to make sure that they retain the leaderships, technologically speaking. And the third aspect is what you mentioned, Daniel. I'm sure that, yes, we would love to all have our boxes and everything, but to us, the European way of life is to make sure that public transportation is something that is exciting to take. It's not going from point A to point B. It's something where we can have a meeting. We could have a podcast while I'm on the train. What about doing this next time? Well, with our technology, we can do that. So it's really the three things that we believe are fit for Europe.
We should introduce you to one of our customers, the German railway operator. When we love to take the railway in Germany, but there's sometimes issues with connectivities. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't think it's stellar yet, but maybe we can change that.
Yeah. I mean, how it is, I remember when we took a train from Munich to Berlin, so like two known cities in Germany, I would say, like main connection. And I just wanted to watch a stream of one of the recorded meetings, and the train was empty, and it took, I don't know, like it said, like 4 days. I switched to my mobile, created a hotspot, and it was downloaded in a few minutes. And I was asking myself, what's wrong with the infrastructure? Because my phone should not have better connectivity than the train, and the train, the bandwidth is not used up because it was an empty train. There were not like thousands of people like in this train. So this is something which we really need to move, and I'm happy that you do it. Maybe following up there, the market is huge, right? Right now you say you work on the train, but if you think about autonomous driving, people also want to work on the car when the car is driving autonomously, right? So you want to have a meeting in the car. So the market is huge. And You also mentioned that you right now map the connectivity, and you are just right now a small startup with a lot of expertise. But why didn't anyone else of the big ones did it so far or is doing it?
Culture.
What are they?
Culture. And it's a fascinating topic. It's been a question I had in my mind since the beginning, like, we're going to get crushed. We're going to get crushed either by the big telecom operator, the big mobile network operators, or by the car manufacturers themselves. They could probably do a software as good as ours. But to be able to do that, you need to have a culture that have a lot of depth onto the needs of the automotive industry and the constraints associated to that. I mentioned the power consumption, for instance, but there are many more. You also need to understand deeply what telecom is. And by the way, I heard many Tesla owners complaining about the inability to do seamless connectivity with the phones or with the Wi-Fi. It doesn't. You know why? Because telecom is not as easy and as everybody thinks. It's not because it's normalized that it's worldwide spread that it's an easy way. The way mobile network, 4G or 5G mobile networks operate, it's completely different from a satellite system. And so you need to have a lot of depth again in this to understand what you can change at the deep tech level. And the third aspect is obviously the software and the fact that we've been also thriving, being lucky enough to have one of the gurus in this latest protocols. He created an open source of one of the latest protocols that is worldwide used now, and he's with us as well. So creating this edge in terms of bringing together different expertise is the reason why we've been doing things that the other would not. If you ask a mobile network operator or any network operator, by the way, what they want is to maximize the use of their own network, nothing else. So having something that is agnostic to all the networks is nice as long as you use my network, not the other. Number one. The second is that the car manufacturers are so many fishes to fry right now in terms of software. Adding another software on something that is working on telecoms. Again, telecom is a field in itself. It's not as mundane as what everybody thinks. So this is where we are creating something that the other does not. And the last topic is that, yes, there are some solutions that exist of being agnostic to networks, but they've been always built for, say, offices. So it's in fixed conditions. While the trick here is to do it in a car that doesn't have power and that is moving so that the networks around are moving all the time. So this is really the deep tech challenge that we loved and we embraced 4 years ago.
And by building that middle layer between all these different telco companies and also all these different car companies, you're taking the inefficiency out of the market, right? Because otherwise, if every car companies would be doing it for themselves, you would have like an unlimited number of connections, while building the middle layer, everyone connects to you or buys from you, and you then deal with the supplier, so to say, of the connectivity, which obviously also makes total sense for them. So cool.
When you think about the supply of the different like terrestrial communication and space communication, what is the mix today typically? Like, what is the importance of space, and how is also the LEO economy boosting you right now?
So it's a very good question for which there is no one single answer. Actually, it's super depending on first of all the vertical, the market vertical you're addressing. And then the use cases within the verticals. And so if you talk to car manufacturers, it has to be, they are first of all driven by cost. They want to halve the cost. One of the things they like in our software is that because we connect to the best network, they can choose what best means. It could be the lowest latency for, say, safety critical application, but it could be also best network being the cheapest one. So we are enabling, for instance, for the car to seamlessly connect to the Wi-Fi network at the charging station, for instance, or on the commercial parking lot. And for them, this is a huge gain because once you connect it to the Wi-Fi, this is the moment you can download the upgrades of the car, which otherwise has to be paid to cellular operators to go through their own networks. So that's one of the thing that that I can say. For car manufacturers, it all depends on the applications and what the best networks means. Now, when you look at fleet operators, it may be different. A fleet of truck that is doing mining, for instance, there is a mission critical logic in having the trucks always connected so that they don't have they don't have a flat tire on the only road between the mine and the port where they deliver the goods.
Yeah.
And that's something for which they are very happy to put cameras filming real time the tires to see if there is rock that is pinching the tire.
Mm.
And obviously, there is a lot of AI at the edge level in the camera, but they still need to send this to these video clips that are the important ones to the central office to make the decision on stopping the vehicle and doing some predictive maintenance. So that's really a number of use cases. As you said, the biggest challenge we have is that there is no limit to the use of broadband right now. The world is really changed by AI, changed by software, but changed also by broadband because it's a supporting solutions for all of these. So that's something where we don't see the end yet.
We can imagine. So maybe the last question about your company itself, right? So I've seen on LinkedIn that you're currently, based on that data, roughly 26 employees, and it was 100% growth over the last 2 years, which is immense, right? And so are you currently hiring or?
Yeah. Please go on LinkedIn and check the open vacation that we have there. Absolutely, yes. Please check. We're looking for talents. It's really the name of the game. We've been lucky enough to find investors that believed in us early and gave us the opportunity to demonstrate what we can do on the market. How differentiative could we be for the future of the space industry? And so for that, we need the best. It's simply this. And we're lucky enough, we're based in Europe and we have offices in Luxembourg, in Germany, in France. So, and within the team now, we have 11 nationalities already. So it's really one of these places where, in addition to the pool, obviously,
I just wanted to say that's also a perk.
It's really a fun place to be.
Yeah. Nice. And it's roughly 50% tech, 50% commercial functions right now, right?
Way more tech.
Way more tech?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, it's, you know this, we co-founders. First of all, before you reach any product market fit, you need to do it yourself. It's not as if you only scale once you demonstrated this. And so right now we have a very lean, but really, really brilliant sales team. The core of Stellar is really its tech team.
Yeah. And because we need to come to an end, we really still want to pick your brain on the development of the ecosystem because you have been with the ecosystem for so long. So how would you describe the industry has changed from, let's say, the early 2000s to the 2020s when Starlink came live, right?
Yes.
Was there a lot of innovation before Starlink? And also, do you foresee a lot of innovation going forward? And maybe where do you see the innovation happening in orbit?
Wow, so a lot of questions, but I hope
we only have a little time, so we have to pack it all in one question.
All right. So I think that the biggest change between now and what happened 20 years ago, at least for Europe, is the complacency. 20 years ago, it was so comfortable, right? Oh my God, the trends were going up all around. More satellite being launched, geo satellites. It was really this evolutionary type of change for technology. The market was stable, complacent. Now, because, or maybe thanks to Starlink and SpaceX now, we really in the danger zone. We really need to reinvent ourselves. We really need to rejuvenate. To me, the only solution is by thinking outside of the box. And that's why when I got this call from Germany more than 4 years ago, I said, this is it. This is a moment where we can open a new ecosystem for the space sector. This is a moment where we can bring the space sector to enter into cars to make sure that space solutions will be natively integrated to one of the 3 mass markets of the world: cars, computers, phones. That's it. There are not so many mass markets in the world, and that's one of them. Now, you ask also another questions about how should we see Starlink? Is it what you induced at the question, Sven?
Yeah, maybe going a bit into this, right? I mean, Starlink changed a lot. And the question we have, because you have been in the industry, in the traditional industry, was it foreseeable? Why is this question so interesting for us in the launcher industry? Sven and I have been at a InnoSpace conference where we actually met the first time, and there were people from Ariane Space 2017 laughing about reusable rockets and landing rockets. And I had the feeling they were the last 7-8 years like frozen to death, like an animal, not moving, right? And in telco now we see that satellite communication Airbus had to actually lay off a lot of people because they missed the trend. So the question to you is, was it foreseeable?
Well, I guess that one guy on stage once you said in 5 years from now you're all dead. That guy was called Elon Musk. So yes, it's something that was foreseeable if you would take his word for granted. It was a lot of risk at that time. I think also part of it was the complacency we had within Europe, because at that time Europe was the clear leader, would it be for launches or for satellite manufacturing. Now, to me, it all comes to, there have been so many books about the fact that, the innovation does not come often from large corporates that are more on stepped approach. When you disrupt, you need to rely on a third-party entity such as a startup. There've been books about the innovator dilemma, for instance, that I can recommend on that are going deeply on the reason why it's the best way to do that. And Kodak, by the way, which is an American company, also demonstrated well that they understood that they could do digital pictures and digital cameras, but the business was so good doing chemical pictures.
Yeah.
So now, I think the bigger question is, how can we come back?
Yeah.
And that's, to me, it's no point trying to be frontal and to say we're gonna be as good as these guys, because if we start running, we'll start slow and then run. While they're already running really fast, their run rate right now.
Yeah.
It's much better to try to find the next big thing, which we can develop today and win back. Because innovation is waves after waves after waves. So we missed that wave, clear, okay. But what is the next one? And to me, the next one is clear. It's the one on which you can bring Starlight onto a big mass market, such as the mobility and automotive sector.
So the next big thing is Stellar and not Iris Squared in Europe?
I hope that actually Iris Square will be something we will be using as soon as possible. You talked about autonomous vehicles. Autonomous vehicles, they need to be connected so they can operate, first of all, and because at some point you need to press the big red button to call for help, exactly like on an elevator.
Yeah.
And I would actually feel much better going through an entity that is neutral rather than on satellite constellations for which political agenda can actually guide the business decisions, which to me is honestly is a worrisome trend of the space industry right now.
That's true.
So that's really where I hope that Iris Square will actually realize the huge opportunity that we're opening for it. By the way, a few years back, I was lucky enough to bring on stage at this policy conference in Brussels, just the one last week, but it was two years ago, people from BMW, people from Porsche, and I got them to meet with the European Commission. I witnessed firsthand the fact that it's a long road, but it's not an impossible road.
Yeah.
It's something for which there are clear opportunities there if we are bold enough to try. And for me, that's the whole reason why we created Stellar, because there are so many good things that can happen on bringing together different sectors, the automotive, the satellite, and the software sector.
I love that. And I love the spirit with which you're speaking. And I think that's what Europe needs. So we are at the end of our time. We have one final question. Who should we bring on the podcast in the future?
So I suggest two people. The first one is Herminio Di Paola. He's a general manager of Here Technologies. Here Technology is one essential provider of maps and actually technologies to the car industry. And Herminio is based in Berlin. And Herminio will tell you firsthand what he thinks about satellite observation or SATCOMs in the future. That's number one. Number two is Pierre Lyonnais, the space economist that is boosting this this fantasy regarding the trillion space economy. And again, just being honest with oneself about the opportunities out there is the best way to actually, go for the big thing.
Excellent. We would love to have them on, and we're definitely going to reach out to you to facilitate the interest. But Damien, thank you so much for this podcast, for the time you gave us today. Thanks to all the listeners. Please make sure to follow Damien on LinkedIn and Stella wherever you can, and make sure to tune in for the next New Space Vision episode.
And apply to our jobs.
Exactly.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.